Yo, what's good, YouTube? Brody here, and today I'm going to show you guys how I mixed the song I Know the Raven by WICCA Springs Eternal. This song is very sick, very cool, very fun, like exercise in mixing because of how simple it is. I guess we'll just dive right into it. Talking about it being simple, this song is really just like at its core like an acoustic song, but the production and the mixing I feel like is what makes it so unique. There were a lot of different passes of the vocals and the guitar through a bunch of different processing, a bunch of different textures, very much like an exercise and like texture and different like flavors of distortion and clipping, essentially. So the way it worked is the song is three parts. It's vocals, it's acoustic guitar, just one layer of acoustic guitar processed a few different ways, and then like a Juno synth. And then there's a little bit of extra harmonies at certain points, but essentially just one vocal track, one guitar track, one synth track. And what makes it interesting is the processing through it all. So I'll go ahead and play the guitar first to show. So it starts off with just the regular recorded like mic of the guitar. Nothing crazy going on production wise here. I have an LA3A on both the left and right guitar, just adding some compression, a little bit of EQ just to kind of shape the signal, some de-esser. I like to use de-esser on my acoustic guitars to get rid of like the string clicking sound if I feel like it's too loud. Soloed, I think it was all right, but once you got into the mix of the song, I wanted less of that to kind of add that lo-fi feel. I have some soothe going on, mostly just like getting rid of some resonance, smoothing it out, especially in the low end here. Basically like a multi-band compression is how I'm using it there. And then I did another EQ sweep at the end. And that's what's going on for the main guitar layer. And then we have two other distorted layers that I have both, they also have doubles, but the doubles are like skewed left and right for these. That way it's just not totally symmetrical. This one is through a fuzz pedal. And then this one is through a tape machine that's clipping. And I'll start with the fuzz and show. So really break-uppy, especially on the louder moments, you hear that gain and that fuzz really come in more. Pretty much the same processing going on from the dry, except I added a little bit of reverb just because this was a lot drier of a sound. Thought it was helping bring in some space. And then here's how the tape sounds. Okay, I'll play the fuzz and I'll play the tape to show the difference. That's the fuzz, and then here's the tape. So it's a little bit smoother, a little more like blown out sounding, whereas the fuzz is a little like harsher, more close to distortion. Them together, and then with the mic and added, that's that string noise and some mid-range. And then added, so that's the three guitars together. And then added, I have some effects and things going on just on the whole instrumental bus as well. We have this tube that is side chaining from the vocals. If you see, it's only processing the mids, like the center of the mix pan wise. And I'll show you.
Where the river bends, the winter tide is fast in.
So it's essentially just cutting out EQ-wise wherever the vocal is. only when it's happening. So yeah, we have that going on, some EQ, more balancing stuff, mid-side EQ stuff, just to like get it to fit the way that I wanted. Soothe, just for some more balancing, using it in a few different ways throughout this mix. Because there's so much distortion, I kind of had to rely on a little bit of Soothe just to like tame harshness and make sure that it had the right level of harsh, you know. After that, I used SSL Comp. I use this on a lot of my buses just for some glue. Maybe... yeah, it does like the smallest bit of compression when the Juno Synth is in there as well. And essentially, like, even without much gain reduction, it just like kind of colors the sound a little bit. Then... looks like I was experimenting with some more verb and distortion on the whole instrumental, but decided against it. Some more EQ. A lot of EQ. I was kind of going back and forth because with how simple the song is, that balance was so important. I found myself making different decisions of like how it would sit versus the vocals and whatnot. Let's see here. So yeah, that's what's going on for the acoustic guitar. Then we have this Juno Synth that I believe was reamped through a Fender Princeton amp. And processing-wise, I'm just using some EQ. I love that Juno. I feel like this is a place where WICCA and I have similar tendencies with writing. Pads are just like such a nice way to glue together. Like there's points in the song where the synth comes out more, but even when it's more guitar focused, it just like creates that bed, that like atmosphere, that like musical world building, and just like it's great ambiance and keeps everything together. Now moving from the instrumental, we go to the vocals, which kind of have the same thing going on as the guitar, where there's multiple processing of the same thing. We have our main vocals, which are distorted.
Tonight is mine, I won't pass by where the river bends.
Now, a lot of the distortion for the vocals was also done while recording and sent to me that way. So I'm kind of just shaping here. I have some noise suppression. I'm using the LA3A again. Since everything was so distorted going in, there wasn't much dynamic to begin with, so I didn't have to compress super hard.
Tonight
I'm just like using one compressor.
Where the river bends.
So yeah, I experimented with some more, but wound up against it. Some soothe, some de-essing. Micro shift is like a little stereo widening.
Night is mine, I won't pass by where the river.
Some Valhalla reverb. Then some multi-band compression and a brightener, like exciter towards the end. And that's what's going on in the main vocal. We have a distorted layer of doubles that are slightly panned left and right. This one we have tape. So like the same tape machine that was processing the guitar. And then this one's labeled Echo. I'm not quite sure what it was processed through. But just like two different flavors of distortion. And then towards the end, we have some background vocal harmonies.
I'll be a shadow.
It's a bunch of layers of distorted parts. Nothing too crazy going on with these. Real noisy, cool going in. Essentially my job was to, with all of this distortion, just like keep the necessary parts of the distorted sound and cut out the unnecessary kind of overwhelming bits. That way it all fits in context. And then all together sounds like this.
The winter tide is fast and high and races with
And in my mastering chain, it's pretty much my standard mastering chain. I wound up not using a few things that I normally do. I turned off Isotope, which is just a little bit of tape emulation for me, and my Fairchild plugin, just because I was, again, working with like the exact timbre of distortion that I wanted. And I added some SSL Comp that I don't normally put in my master chain, and some radiator, so like tube distortion, saturation kind of stuff going on.
Alone, I'm at the window waiting for the day to end.
And that's doing some pretty heavy lifting.
The mysteries of time, I chase the mystic.
My mindset with the radiator on the master was that everything was distorted on its own, and then I wanted some kind of distortion all the way at the end that was like uniformly distorting everything. That way it kind of like was harmonic glue in a way. Not quite at like compression would be a glue, but that like putting everything, it kind of puts it all in the same space.
Its symbols and its signs.
And yeah, essentially that's it. This one's pretty simple. More of a balancing act than anything. More like, this one was more, the effort of this mix was more in the decision making than it was in like dealing with a bunch of tracks and like going crazy with processing. But I think that's kind of fun, because at the end of the day, the decision making is like the biggest part of the mix, like figuring out what purpose each thing serves and how it should all piece together puzzle wise. And yeah, I really dig this song. I think it's really unique. It's a fun approach to an acoustic song while also being super stylistic, but yet not so stylistic that it's like gimmicky. I think it like sits in this really perfect kind of area. I don't know. I love it. Good stuff. I Know the Raven by WICCA Springs Eternal, out now on all platforms. Go check it out. Go listen. I hope that this was helpful for you. As always, if I glossed over something or didn't touch on something that you want more detail on, feel free to leave a comment and ask away. Feel free to DM me on Instagram, anything, get a hold of me. I'm always game to talk shop with this kind of thing. If you made it this far, thank you. And with that being said, peace out.